The sun had barely begun to warm the rooftops of central London when the whispers resumed, slipping through the corridors of power with the quiet insistence of a rising tide. It was not noise, but silence that spoke loudest in recent weeks, the kind of silence that cloaks uncertainty in the most gilded of rooms. And at the center of it all stands His Majesty King Charles III, navigating the weight of his crown beneath the shadow of an illness that refuses to be named aloud. Since the palace first acknowledged the king's diagnosis, discreetly described as a form of cancer with no further elaboration, there has been an uneasy balancing act between duty and vulnerability. Official communications, polished and poised, speak of optimism and resilience. His Majesty is making progress, they say. He is getting better. And indeed, he has reappeared in public, ever dignified, fulfilling engagements with his trademark calm. But even as he smiles, the question lingers in the air like the soft chime of a clock in a quiet hall. How well is he, really? Behind closed doors, the rhythm of royal life has subtly shifted. The court calendar, once brimming with state functions and ceremonial affairs, has softened at the edges. Engagements once deemed routine for the monarch are now quietly delegated not to staff, but to blood. Prince William, heir to the throne, has stepped forward with a steadiness that has not gone unnoticed, his presence at key events signaling not just filial devotion but a deliberate preparation. He is not filling in, he is growing into the role. Alongside him, other senior royals, the ever-reliable Prince Edward, the poised Duchess of Edinburgh, have become increasingly visible, subtly absorbing the strain of the king's reduced schedule. Those within the palace speak in guarded tones, but their actions betray a more pressing reality. This is not a simple case of temporary absence or recovery. This is something more sustained, more delicate. Sources with long-standing ties to royal operations suggest that Charles's weekly treatments, though consistent, are both intensive and indicative of a chronic condition. And now, the conversation has turned to something far more symbolic, something that reaches into the very heart of what it means to reign. Buckingham Palace. The name alone carries centuries of weight. For generations, it has been the sovereign's seat, a stage for jubilees, crises, and coronations alike. When Queen Elizabeth II passed away, the natural assumption was that her son would, in time, assume residence within those familiar walls. Yet here we are, more than a year into his reign, and the king still calls Clarence House home. At first, the delay was practical. Buckingham Palace, long overdue for renovation, has been undergoing a sweeping multi-million-pound overhaul. Wiring, plumbing, insulation, the bones of the building have been laid bare and rebuilt with a precision befitting its stature. The project, dubbed the Redefining program, is scheduled for completion in late 2027. It was always understood that the king would move in once the dust had settled. But now, for the first time, that expectation is being quietly dismantled. In a recent and sobering report published by the Daily Telegraph, royal editor Camilla Tominey has introduced a deeply unsettling possibility, one that palace insiders have until now been loath to admit publicly. According to sources close to the situation, King Charles may never move into Buckingham Palace at all. The reason, they say, lies not in preference or tradition, but in the reality of his health. The diagnosis, Tominey suggests, is not only serious, it is incurable. This detail, stark in its clarity, redefines the entire narrative. The king's condition, while being actively managed, is now believed by some to be permanent. In medical terms, it may not be immediately terminal, he may, as one source phrased it, die with cancer, not of cancer. But such phrasing is a recognition of endurance, not recovery. It speaks of a monarch managing his illness in tandem with his duties, not triumphing over it. If true, the implications are profound. The decision to remain at Clarence House, a graceful Georgian townhouse nestled on the edge of St. James's Park, takes on new significance. It is not just a matter of comfort or continuity, it is a quiet acknowledgement of limitation. The building, smaller and more intimate than Buckingham Palace, offers a softer rhythm more conducive to treatment, less steeped in the relentless machinery of monarchy. It is a place to rule from, yes, but also a place to rest. And what of Buckingham Palace itself? The palace will, the report clarifies, remain the administrative and ceremonial nerve center of the monarchy. State banquets, investitures, diplomatic audiences, all will continue to take place within its grand halls. Staff will operate from its offices, visiting heads of state will still pass through its gilded gates. But it may do so without the daily presence of its sovereign. For the first time in modern memory, the monarch's official residence may not be the monarch's actual home. This departure from tradition is not insignificant. The monarch's physical presence at Buckingham Palace has long been a symbol of stability, of the crown's unshakable centrality in national life. To forego that presence is to subtly reshape the architecture of monarchy itself, to adapt, quietly and deliberately, to the human fragility behind the facade. Still, the decision, if it is indeed a decision, has not been officially confirmed. The palace maintains its message of cautious optimism. Weekly updates highlight the king's engagements, and his occasional appearances are carefully choreographed to project continuity. But beneath the surface, the institution is adjusting. Some aides speak of new rhythms and shifting expectations. Others avoid the topic altogether, focusing instead on the future, a future that now carries Prince William's shadow a little more clearly. Within royal circles, the move, or lack thereof, is being treated not as a retreat but as a concession. A practical adaptation, one insider put it, to the realities of time. King Charles, 76 years old, has never lacked resolve. But the palace he may never inhabit now becomes a symbol not of absence, but of evolution. This is a reign unlike any other, marked not by grandeur or dramatic upheaval, but by the quiet, persistent negotiation between duty and decline. The public, for now, remains respectful. There is no clamor, no cries of abdication. If anything, there is a growing appreciation for the dignity with which the king continues to serve. Yet there is also a flicker of concern, a recognition that something unspoken is unfolding. The crown endures, yes, but it does so under altered terms. And what of the years to come? If Buckingham Palace reopens its refurbished halls in 2027, who will cross its threshold as resident monarch? Will it be Charles, still managing his duties with careful precision? Or will the keys pass sooner than expected to William, ushering in not just a generational shift but a geographic one? These are questions no one dares answer aloud, not yet. What is clear, however, is that the modern monarchy is being redrawn in real time. The king's health, once a private matter, has become an architectural force reshaping not just calendars and engagements, but bricks and mortar. The palace that may never be his home stands as both a monument to tradition and a mirror to change. And so we wait not just for the completion of restorations, but for the next page of this deeply personal royal chapter to turn. What began as a story of stone and scaffolding has become something far more human. It is a story not just of where the monarch lives, but of how he reigns, quietly, persistently, and with a solemn grace that speaks volumes even in silence.